I know you're tired. I know you're hurting. And I wish I could say something that was classy and inspirational.
You can do it!
But that just wouldn't be our style.
Welcome to Project Reclamation, where you rebuild, re-energize, and reclaim your life.
So, Stephen Chang.
Yes.
Chango.
So you're watching some show about Tent City?
Yeah, I was watching some show about Tent City last night, man, and it kind of I gotta be honest with you, I've heard about it before, and I heard that
Sheriff Joe Arpaio.
Joe Arpaio was like this horrible dude because he was just doing these inhumane things to criminals who still have rights and things, you know, rights as human beings, absolutely. But I gotta be honest with you, like, I didn't realize that Tent City stayed open 365 days a year. Like, even in the dead of summer, those guys are still out there sleeping in these like plastic tents or whatever.
Well, yeah,
just roosting away.
At what point does the material melt? That's what I want to know.
Well,
they
think
were saying
about
it's
it.
like 140 degrees, 120 degrees, and they're just like,
Yeah, so I mean that's the whole point of the punishment. If you were like, just in winter, it's like, oh yeah, dude, winter in Phoenix is
Wintertime
amazing.
It's probably 16 degrees out there.
Yeah, you'd be like, oh yeah, I'll go get a DUI and go get sent to Tent City in the winter because it's like vacationing. But no,
Ugh.
it's summer.
No.
Is brutal. I lived out there for a while. It was brutal.
Dude, it is anything above. If you're outside and it's like 100 degrees, I quit. Like, I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to go outside.
Yeah.
But when you're just out there and there's nothing to do except sit in your like pants or your prison pants, and you're just like, oh, cool, I'll roast away. Like,
Yeah, and
but that's so good. I mean, think about it.
it's,
Like, you want to like break into a car, or you want to break into someone's house, or you want to like I said, even like white collar crimes. I don't mind you being put out there because I'm pretty sure. If I ever did that, I would learn my lesson, and I would never, ever, ever think. I would
Isn't
think
that the point
2
of like
times.
that? Well, I guess you have two schools of thought. You got the rehab, like, oh, we're gonna rehabilitate, or there's the whole back to like the middle ages where they just march people around the town square.
it's
and
pretty much
it's
shaming.
like shaming.
No, but
Yes,
why is
like
that wrong?
like we're gonna shame this person to show everyone else that you don't want to do this.
I feel like this is one of those true Hollywood stories for me, because this is where I say like, oh, if I did a crime, I would want to do the same thing. I feel okay. 4 years later, Stephen finds himself in Tent City, and he's like, damn it.
Well,
This is travesty.
you wouldn't be
Stephen
there
Chang
for
fighting for criminals' rights.
for very long because it's just a jail. It's not prison.
Oh, I wouldn't make it at all. I would be like, what? I have to sleep on this metal canister?
Steve would
bed?
opt out after like 2 days.
Yeah, I'll be like, I'll snitch. I don't care.
Steve would just
I'll
shank somebody to
rat.
go into solitary confinement.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put me in. Max
Steven, you're
security.
only supposed to be there for a 72-hour hold. What are you doing? How did you get there for 15 to 20 now? I just had to get that AC.
It's the system, man. It's the
California,
system.
where I get meals and
When
and a
you were
condo.
out there in Phoenix, JB, you lived in Phoenix?
Yeah. Well, it was
Right, when you were-
Gilbert, and
was Gilbert.
I lived in Gilbert, but it's a suburb of Phoenix.
No, you don't need to tell me. I know Gilbert all day.
Yeah, you know
I used
Gilbert.
to-
Gilbert
yeah.
Godfrey.
Gilbert Godfrey. I used to dream about Gilbert. Anyways,
Yeah.
shout out to the future city sponsor of this sweet Project Reclamation.
Is
Gilbert, Arizona.
the municipal township of Gilbert, Arizona.
Yeah, thank you, Gilbert City Council. You're doing an A+.
Thank you for your sponsorship dollars.
Yeah.
A+.
Your
Thank you for
sponsorship
naming the
cents.
park after us.
They didn't send us money. They just sent us a bunch of tents.
No.
They just provided excellent infrastructure for when I lived there.
Yeah.
13, 14 years
Thank
ago.
you for keeping JB on the straight and
Thanks
narrow,
for
Gilbert.
keeping all the traffic lights running.
Yeah, your sidewalks were immaculately kept.
Yes. Your roads very good. No potholes.
When you were in Gilbert, were you ever like, hey, guys, we're going to go to Tempe and tear out the town?
Totally.
But not too much, though. Because I don't want to end up in Tent City. Were you ever afraid of it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No. So we didn't have Uber or Lyft back then. So when you went out, like, you'd never wanted to drive. I mean, obviously, drinking and driving isn't. You don't
obviously.
drink and drive normally, but you really don't drink and drive.
Yes,
there.
yes. We do not condone drinking and driving on this podcast. It's a bad idea.
Yeah.
So it was like, yeah, you just didn't. You either took a cab or you had a DD. It was you always had that looming in the back of your mind. You're like, I really don't want to be wearing old school prison stripes with pink underwear, eating moldy bologna sandwiches, sleeping in a tent in the dead heat of the summer. So that really dissuaded you from doing anything against the law.
Bro, I'm not going to lie to you. I went out to Arizona, to Phoenix in September. You guys you guys knew this. It was, short of the long is that I remember it was like 108 degrees every day in September. And I'm not used to that. And I went on a hike, not like a hike, just like I went to go to one of the parks. And
you went on a
happened
nature
to have like a
walk.
little bit of an escalation to it. It was probably a wheelchair ramp. I'm going to be honest with you. It wasn't even a hike. It was just me walking up a wheelchair ramp. And I just walked up the wheelchair ramp to the Walmart. And I got to be honest with you, man, it was just too fucking hot. I don't know how people do it. I just don't.
I was in Palm Springs once, and I was at work, and I remember it was 126 degrees.
No.
Yeah, dude.
No.
It's like I could feel the rubber soles of my shoes melting as I walked across the asphalt.
Were you there?
We used to go golfing in high school in the summer in Palm Springs.
No.
And it was
Who was this we? I remember you in high school. Who was
me
this we?
and Kevin Blue and Todd Buzzard.
What, was it just so discounted?
Yeah,
Was it
so
just the cheapest
basically you could buy this little
That's
book.
the only time JB could get a tea time.
Exactly. You could buy this book, and they had these discounted rates. I mean, you could play like PGA West, which is like, the crazy, PGA golf course for, $25, where usually you can never get a tee time. And if you do, it's like $600. So,
Ugh.
yeah, you'd go play early in the morning at like between 8 and noon. And by the time you were done, it was like 120 degrees. But, you're 18, 19 years old, and it's like, it's super hot, but it's very
pliable,
dry too, and there's something to be said about the dry heat.
It's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat.
It's a dry heat.
Yeah, it's more like a sauna, zero
Your
humidity.
oven's also a dry heat as well, but when you still open it, when it's like, it's still hot.
That's how I
Imagine
prepped for that
being
trip, was I just shoved my head in the oven for about 2 or 3 hours,
Dude, I know this is kind of like one of those macabre kind of like jokes or whatever, but back in the day, and still to this moment, I don't understand when like housewives were so bummed out or everyone was just so depressed that they would like stick their head in an oven. Like, how does that work, dude? How do you like kill yourself? Just burn your hair.
Carbon
or you
monoxide poisoning. Who knows?
Who knows, man?
I think.
So, guys,
Let's reel it back.
Speaking of sticking your head in an oven, today we're talking about
speaking of ovens. I
Welcome.
think today a good topic to discuss would be diet.
Ovens. That's right. Ovens to food.
Well, you use ovens to
diet.
cook food, and food consists of what you eat for diet. So that's my segue right there.
love it,
I saw
man.
the opening. I took it.
Transition,
Diet.
flawless, seamless.
So, diet, I think, is it's a term that's kind of probably misunderstood sometimes. We're not going to talk about a diet. We're going to talk about diet in general.
Yeah, sometimes it strikes fear in the hearts of
It
people.
does.
well,
it
like
does.
diet
People
versus
think about
dieting.
diet versus dieting. Yes.
That's right.
Shoot, I guess that we'll start there, JB. Why don't you tell me about the difference between diet and a diet?
Well, I mean, think about it. So your diet consists of the calories that you consume, right? That's what you eat during the day.
See.
And dieting or fad dieting is trying to lessen or, funnel those calories through a certain program, which it can be easy or hard to follow. And most of the time it's hard, right? People
Absolutely.
try it and then
Don't get me
they
wrong. I think we'll talk about different diets, and we'll probably even mention some of that on this episode. But this episode is mostly about diet in general. I think that we wanted to touch on the subject because, first of all, it's a category that we want to get into. I think that diet is so important. I mean, whether you're trying to lose weight, gain weight, be healthy, whatever it is, working out is obviously important, but they always say, like the best ab program is made in the kitchen and that kind of stuff. So
I like to do crunches in the kitchen, actually.
I do too. I mean, I find that when
I lift up my bags
when
of
I lay
rice.
on the island in my kitchen,
Yeah, it's so nice. It's
provides
nice
a
and
very
cool
hard
on my back.
surface yes, and it's yeah, exactly. The granite is Jesus. So why is diet important, Steve?
What goes in the body, man? I mean, like, literally, what goes in the body is all your output. So I remember, just as like when I was training for, y'all may not know this, I used to do a lot of long distance running, and when you train for it, whatever you put in is really the fuel that you're going to put out. And like I said, traditionally people just get so afraid of talking about, oh well, I'm trying this, or I've heard people do that, or I've looked online and my Instagram account, and this is what people are eating, or this is like the newest kind of, I need to put chia seeds on everything, or I need to make sure I eliminate all vegetables and only eat all meat. Whatever you put in, whatever's working for you is fine. You know, it's just you have to kind of understand that, like, whatever you're putting in, if that's what's getting you the same results, and you want to make a change, you may need to change up what you're actually putting into the tank. You know.
Yeah, and I mean, I think JB and I were talking about this yesterday, and it's kind of like we equate it to your diet. What you put in your body is basically equivalent to the gas you put in your car. So, I mean, most cars are, they're fine on that 87, and some cars need higher, but you certainly, you wouldn't just go put garbage in your gas tank or, go ahead and, well, I don't recommend this, but go ahead and try putting sugar in your gas tank. And
or putting diesel in a gas engine. It's like you got to put the right fuel in.
You got to put the correct fuel in there. Now, if you put crappy fuel, your car's going to run for a while, but it's not going to run very, very long. And, you try putting a bunch of sugar in your gas
start
tank,
to get pings and knocks and.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's why we wanted to talk about diet. It's extremely important what you put in your body. We don't have all the right answers. I'm not a nutritionist. Steve and JB are not nutritionists.
I'm definitely not a nutritionist.
But we have certainly experimented with plenty of different diets to know that diet is important, and what you put in your body is what you're going to get out. And I mean, at the end of the day, for the most part, it's going to be calories in, calories out. But the quality of the fuel that you're burning definitely affects your life. And I mean, we see so many studies nowadays with linking, diet to, I mean, we already know that, diet's going to help you avoid diabetes and all that other stuff. But now, like lately, there's a lot of studies I've seen about, being able to use diet to reduce your risk of dementia and Alzheimer's and all sorts of other stuff.
Also, mood and affect.
I wish somebody would have told Wilford Brimley about that. Poor guy.
Well, poor guy.
Yeah.
Sitting on his horse.
Diabetes.
I'm Wilford Brimley, and I have diabetes.
Diabetes.
Yeah, and he could have fixed it, But
Well, yeah,
instead
I
he
mean,
just
do
did
you
commercials
think?
about it?
It's like,
You think?
poor guy.
Yeah.
Look, diet. Food is such an important part of our culture. Food is inherently tied in with emotion. I feel as though
absolutely.
that's inherently tied in with emotion. From the moment you're young, you always have. And what's one of like the biggest things to comfort food? Like, there are things that make you feel better about yourself, or maybe you feel better about certain situations. And working out and being healthy and eating certain foods for that same affect is no different, right? Like, oh, I feel like after I have this really, really big workout, oh, I just worked out all day, and oh, I'm gonna cram myself with 2 Domino's pizzas. It's really kind of tough. Not that Domino's is a bad thing. Shout out to our future sponsor, Domino's.
Future sponsor Domino's. The new healthy pizza.
Future sponsor
it's
Domino's.
Great thing.
I know the Project Reclamation Domino's pairing is fantastic.
It's just basically a saltine cracker with a little bit of tomato sauce and a pepperoni on it.
But people, it's like people feel guilty almost. And part of us talking about this today is to say, hey, it's okay to have emotions tied in with your diet. It's okay to have emotions tied in with your food. Guess what? They've always been there. They're always going to be there. But it's also how you kind of handle those emotions, how you kind of look at it yourself and what you're putting into your body as well. Maybe we can help kind of change that. Maybe we can help you make you maybe disconnect some of those negative emotions, and maybe you just say, hey, like what I put in is not necessarily going to be inherently tied to my feelings and affect or who I am or my values as a person. But maybe it's just going to help me say, hey, sometimes there are cheat meals. Sometimes there are things that make me feel good, but maybe I just need to change the way
And
I
there's
look at
nothing wrong
food.
with that. I mean, just like we've mentioned, I think already a bunch of times, you're going to fail. We all fail, but failure is really just failing at something. So that didn't work. So we try again. I mean, JB could probably speak to this. Steve, I don't know that you've ever actually needed to diet in your life, and we could talk about that in a little bit. But JB and I have been on diets, and you either have a scheduled cheat meal or a cheat day, or sometimes you just go off the rails. And I mean, that's going to happen just like anything else. You're going to not work out one day, or you're going to do this, or if you're trying to, get a new job or whatever it is you're trying to do, you're going to have days when you feel like you failed. But I mean, the true test to this is like, we're doing the marathon here. It's not a sprint. So, okay. So you blew it and you had a Domino's pizza or 2 or 3 or whatever. Like,
Cheesy
okay,
breadsticks,
it is what it
wrong with
is. Maybe we try to figure out why we did that, and we don't do that again in the future, or not to that degree. But the thing is that you just get right back on the horse.
Well, here's the thing too. So, for so long I thought, okay, I'm going to diet and get skinny and, look like whoever, movie star guy.
Denzel Washington. Is who
Yeah,
you said
Denzel
before.
Washington was exactly
That's why
who
he
I
spent
had
so
in
much
mind.
time in Phoenix.
Exactly. But you get to the point where it's like I was falsely thinking that once I got there, it was just going to be coast. I was just going to coast. I was like, I'm here. I've attained this. That's not the case. It's just
work,
like
man.
anything else. You have to maintain that. And I think a lot of people feel that way. It's like, oh, I can just do this for a little while and then I'll get there and it'll be fine. And I won't have to do this anymore. That's the wrong way to look at it.
No. And I mean, that's why even a diet is really diet. I mean, you can do a fad diet and get to where you want, but then it's like you have to figure out how to maintain.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. It has to
any
be a lifestyle
true-
change, not
any
just
true
a
change.
temporary
Exactly.
thing.
Any true change is a lifestyle change. And that's why I think I'm not against fad diets, or not even fad diets, but just diets, like Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, Nutrisystem, all these things. I mean, if you're motivated, they're going to work.
Yeah.
I mean, any of these, South Beach, Atkins, Paleo, Keto. But what I think that the main thing is to find a diet that works for you, that you can actually do, that you can stick to without falling off the rails and without punishing yourself too much. Because if it's too much of a punishment, I don't think it's going to last. So I think for me, I don't really prescribe to any particular diet. I mean, I kind of found a sort of hybrid, sort of bastardized version of keto and paleo that sort of works for me. And that's what I try to stick to. Now, I mean, do I stick to it all the time? Absolutely not. But for the most part, that is a painless diet that I can do day in, day out. I can have a few setbacks and a few pitfalls, but for the most part, it's a diet that I can painlessly stick to. Some people may need more structure, so maybe something like a Jenny Craig or a meal replacement kind of a deal, or Weight Watchers.
Well, and support too.
points.
I mean, that's those programs
exactly.
offer support. Prescribed
I think that's
support.
Yes, and I mean, I think just like anything else, I mean, like we've talked about how important support is to everything. So, I mean, in general, in motivation and in diet. So, I mean, some of these programs like HMR and Jenny Craig, I mean, my mom lost a bunch of weight on Jenny Craig, and then she was a Jenny Craig coach for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a huge part of those programs is that support. And I think that's part of what makes them successful is that, they give you that support and you have that kind of a built-in therapist with it.
Yeah.
But support's going to be huge no matter what. That's why we've talked about, I mean, just last episode, we talked about, doing things privately versus doing things publicly. I mean, you can do whatever you want. It's up to you, but this is all going to tie back to motivation.
Yeah.
If you're motivated, you're going to do it. And to be motivated, sometimes you need that support and you need accountability. So it always makes sense to talk to people, tell people what you're doing. And then, like Steve, every day he asks me, well, how many steps have you taken, Tim? So, I mean, there's my accountability because, Steve's going to check on me.
Yeah.
And that's also my competitiveness too. I'm like, how many steps did you take? You didn't say it right.
I thought you were supporting me. And really
I'll call you up in
trying
a
to
cold
compete
sweat.
with
Hey man, how many steps did you take today? Guys, let's be real and let's hone it back here because like part of the main goal of the project was is to re-energize yourself. It's also to kind of be the best self that you can be. And if you don't feel like you can get to be the best self that you can be on your own, you have us to kind of back you up. Tim, you trying to touch base on something like Steve. I don't think you've ever needed a diet, maybe or whatnot. Let's be real. Like part of dieting and controlling your intake of food is helping you feel the best that you can, like physically, mentally. but also helping you look the best way that if you look at yourself in the mirror, you go, that's what I want to look like. That's who I am. That's the figure. That's the shape. That's who I identify with. And that for me is just as much as a battle as is with anybody else, with you guys or with any other person out there. And that's almost like been a hard struggle for my life too, or myself as well. It's not if you look at yourself and you go, oh, I ate a pizza and maybe it doesn't affect me as much as somebody else, or I eat a bunch of junk food and it doesn't affect me just as much as it does, you or JB or even Johnny Joe down the street. And it doesn't mean that it still doesn't have the same kind of visual kind of disparities too in my own mind. And maybe it's not like a sense of body dysmorphia, but it's also just saying like, hey, am I doing the best that I can be, or am I eating the right foods that I can be eating that are going to make me feel the best way that I can be for myself, or have the best body that I can for myself for whatever it is I need to do.
Well, it can also be more
Yeah.
dangerous for you because not dangerous, but you could be
No, let's call it out. It
having
can be
habits.
dangerous.
You could be fostering habits that you don't necessarily see the negative side effects from right away. Whereas,
Absolutely.
say, Tim or I, who are larger people, we can see those a little quicker. Whereas, yours are masked by your metabolism, but you build those habits up, and that one piece of pizza every couple of days. Oh, it doesn't affect me. Well, it might. Who knows?
No, for sure. Unless you have an allergy, unless you have an allergy to some foods, my thoughts on food have always been simple. Moderation is key. Like, go ahead and have your anything that bad. You want your ice cream, you want your ribs, you want your whatever. Like, go ahead and have it. Do it. So long as you just, it's hard to take on a whole rack of ribs with all that barbecue sauce slathered on it.
It's not that hard.
Speak for
Sorry,
yourself,
I didn't
Steve.
finish my sentence. It's hard to burn off, a whole rack of ribs with all that barbecue and sugar and molasses like slathered on it, and it's hard to go run, for 13 miles afterwards after you do that. Everything's in moderation, and as you get older, maybe you need to be more particular about it, or maybe you need to be more watchful of it. And that's all I would ever ask someone to do is just be more mindful of it. Hey,
And I think on that subject with being more mindful of what your intake is. I mean, what are we trying to do here on this podcast? We're trying to encourage people to do things to make their lives better and to make themselves happier.
absolutely.
And we have talked about, dieting kind of on its face with the nutritional value, but I mean, just back to everything that diet encompasses with, all of the hormone release and how it makes you feel, and just back to the whole gas, the fuel in the car thing. If you are eating healthy, and it doesn't need to, like we've mentioned, it doesn't need to be perfect, but if you're being mindful of what you're putting in your body, and you're paying attention to that, and you're trying to eat, good things and less, processed foods and more real foods, and trying to get that balance, and that balance is going to have to be something that you're going to have to figure out. But if you're eating to where you are functioning well, then I mean, your productivity is going to go up. Your mood is going to go up, and we wanted to talk about diet right now on this episode because it's just kind of a linchpin to how you feel. It's going to affect your motivation. It's going to affect how you feel in the morning when you get up. Is it going to be easier or harder to get if you've eaten a crap ton of carbs the night before and you ate a whole Domino's pizza and some ice cream and some Krispy Kreme donuts, you're going to feel hungover in the morning.
I felt hungover
And
this
I mean,
morning.
that's just because what did you eat last night, JB?
I had Domino's Krispy Kreme. I'm just kidding.
There you go.
You ate
So
Domino's
what
Krispy
I'm
Kreme.
saying is, and see exactly, we're not perfect, dude. JB ate some Domino's and some Krispy Kreme last night. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But you just need to understand how that's going to affect your body.
I'm jealous.
And if you're trying to work out, or you're just trying to be productive, or you're trying to get up and get your life to where it needs to be it a new job, or just be better at your job, or be more productive, or you're just trying to manage your time better, or JB's trying to be a better dad, if you wake up all lethargic and unmotivated, then that's going to affect your other goals. So the reason that we want to talk about diet is not that this is particularly a diet and exercise podcast, although we will focus on that a lot, simply because those things are going to affect the way that you feel and the way that you look and the way that you act and the way that you do things. And that is so important to what we're trying to do here. So that's why we wanted to talk about that.
Well, using diet as a tool to help you attain your goals,
yes,
using
absolutely. And that's all it is. It's
yeah.
it's another it's another tool in the box.
Yep.
Look, if you've struggled,
You got
with,
3 tools here on the podcast.
Yeah,
You got a lot of
definitely
tools in your toolbox.
oh my gosh, if you've struggled with your food intake, if you've struggled with kind of deciding what to do or how to eat or what to eat, if you've even struggled with just your body image your whole life, hey man, we've struggled with it too. We've struggled with it too. We're here. We've been 3 friends throughout our whole lives. We've been able to support each other. But you know, if you need that extra boost and you say no one else is going through the same stuff I am, yeah, we are, and we're always going to be going
So
through
let's
it.
talk about that. So Steve,
Yeah.
I was talking to you the other day, and I was talking about diets that have worked for me and for JB and that haven't worked for me, and I asked you what, you know, you're a good looking guy, you know, you're I don't know what, 10% body fat, something. You look good with your shirt off. That's all I'm trying to say. You're an Asian American Adonis. What do you prescribe to? What has been your, being a guy who struggled with his weight and struggled with food my entire life? I look at you and I'm like, okay, he's either gifted or he has it down.
Or privately, I'm.
What is
doing
your
something
deal?
Really, no, you know what it is, and honestly, and I hate saying this because I know on some level it's quite unhealthy, but this is no shocker too. Like I do a lot of limiting. I know this is kind of like I've never prescribed to Atkins. I've never done Paleo. I don't even know what that is, or Keto. I don't know what that is. I honestly don't know what that is.
We'll teach you.
What deal? But here's what it is. Like I just, and this is maybe a more dangerous thing more than anything else, is that I'll limit. Like, you know, I'll have many people say, they're, you know, hey, you never eat, or you're not eating. Like I never see you. Do you even eat? And I go, oh yeah, it's not like I'm not hungry. It's not that I'm not hungry, but I almost like I block it out and I just keep on going forward. And you know, on a 12-hour shift, sometimes all I'll have is just, and I know this is terrible, but all I'll have is just like something to drink, whether that be a soda or whether that be like a few little, like, you know, sips of like some kind of Propel Power Water. And I'll one that's very negative. It's you know, you can easily dehydrate yourself really quite quickly. But beyond all that, I just kind of mentally block it out. And it's not like it's easy, but I think after you do something for so long and you're like, okay, yeah, maybe I just don't need it or I don't want it, and you just kind of like look for other things to kind of keep your mind distracted or.
So how do you feel after a shift? Because if not, nobody knows, you're an emergency room nurse, and I can imagine that a lot of your, you know, you probably run off of adrenaline a lot of the time too.
A little bit.
Yeah. So
and maybe that's also what masks it as well, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I'm tired. Well, yeah, you're gonna be tired no matter what.
You're gonna be tired, but this guy has a car bumper sticking out.
Well,
of his
and you're
abdomen, so
kind
gonna
of
have
in
to
a
do
constant
something
state
about
of
that.
like survival. You know, you are helping these people, but that you're, you know, constantly revved up and thinking, and I mean that burns a lot of calories. So like after a shift, you just like crash out. Like how does that work out for you?
I'm pretty exhausted after a shift, but I'll tell you when I feel it the most is the next morning when you wake up, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, same stuff that we've been talking about. What you put in the tank, you know, you kind of is what your output generally is. And honestly, like I'll feel it the next day where you're just moody, you're grumpy, and I even had it to the point where, you know, if you work multiple days in a row and you're just kind of like really, your body is just really on basic like survivor mode. Yeah, you aren't really that great a person. Like I've had, you know, people go like, oh, you know, I feel like the work gets the best of you, and when you come home, you're the worst person. You're crabby. You're moody. You're easily, you know, kind of upset. And it's really
Well,
difficult.
your body's
But I
in
will tell you
shock
this,
at that
guys.
point. You know, your blood sugar's
Well,
all
your
out of
body's just
whack.
running off
You're,
of-
you know, you haven't given it the
Absolutely.
proper nutrients, and you know, like you
And
said,
that's
the
not-
brain burns a ton of calories. You know.
Oh, absolutely. And if you think that you're like doing yourself a favor, if I think I'm doing myself a favor overall by doing that, no, absolutely not. Because also I live on, and there's also a binge kind of purge cycle too, and it's almost like not the modern day bulimia, but who knows? Like, you know,
Well, you're not necessarily
whenever I'm around.
purging. You're just kind of binging, and then, you know,
Binging.
Steve's a binge purger, but he doesn't do the purge part.
Yeah, just
Well, I
or
mean,
maybe it's all
I've
about
done the
binging.
same
Like,
thing.
you know, it's all.
You know, when you're on tour, you could do some really long days, and you know, there's
Absolutely.
catering and stuff like that. But if you're super busy, you know, I'll have
You don't have
maybe
time to eat.
maybe one meal, and it'll be a big one. It'll probably be either lunch or dinner, and you know, I'll go 4 or 5 hours without drinking any water, just because you're so busy and it's so bad for you.
And you're doing some work. You're lifting some stuff. You're moving some stuff. You're shaking some stuff. You're thinking.
Yeah. So,
you're doing some work.
I maybe not to the same degree that you have, but I know exactly what you're talking about, and I've experienced that. And just, it's the same thing. Cause then, you get done with an 18-hour day, you get on the bus, you'll have a beer or 2 or 3, and you get up the next morning, and, having not eaten what you should have, being dehydrated, and then putting alcohol on top of that, like that's a recipe for disaster.
And it's not game over if you're 20. I feel like it's game over when
well, yeah, because when you're 20, your cells are still healthy, and you bounce back quickly.
Yeah, we could abuse our bodies in all sorts of different crazy ways when we were 20.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't work so well. At this point, guys, I would like to do a hat tip to our friend and hero, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, in our segment, The Rock Says.
The Rock says, The Rock says, The Rock says, The Rock says.
All right. So, guys, our quote today from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This is kind of a short one, and I don't think this is necessarily pertaining to food, but I think it definitely could. So this quote is, "Wake up determined, go to bed satisfied." So, guys, I think that is a good quote from The Rock, and I think it means, wake up determined to be healthy, determined to do what you want, and go to bed satisfied, Eat to satisfaction, not to discontent or discomfort. So that is our quote from The Rock.
Well, here's a question for you, Tim, and also JB,
Yes.
and also whoever else is listening. Let's say you do a diet.
Yes.
And you're so excited about, the Project Reclamation diet. You're so excited about it, right?
What is the Project Reclamation?
The Project
diet?
Reclamation diet is you just listen to 3 guys babble, and you're so nauseated by what we're saying. You're so nauseated just by the tone of our voices that it makes you lose all appetite and also sex drive, and you're just like, I can't do anything. Yeah, that's right. That's all self-deprecation. Never hurt anybody.
Yes,
but no.
yes.
Obviously, you've told me that you've tried several diets before.
I think I've tried every diet.
You've tried every
known to
diet,
man.
right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because it's obviously about finding the one that works for you.
Yeah.
But how do you feel afterwards? Like, let's say you try Project X diet and it doesn't work. How do you get the motivation? Maybe how do you rebound? How do you say how do you not get so defeated by it and say like, this didn't work. I don't fit my swimsuit, and I can't. I'll never be able to do it. I'll never be able to get.
That's why I stressed earlier that you have to find the diet that you can painlessly or pain minimally stick to, because if you don't see results, then a diet sucks. I mean, diets suck in general, but if you don't see results, then you're going to end up going off the rails, and then you're probably going to do something, you're going to go eat 3 pizzas or whatever it is. So you have to find a diet that works for you, that's fairly painless. And I mean, I have written down here what's the one perfect diet that works, and I think it's the one that works for you. It's the one that you can stick to. And I mean, it's Steve talking about Atkins, Paleo, Keto, South Beach, Nutrisystem, Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, HMR, whatever. All of these diets, if you're motivated and you stick to it, and it's something that you can do without feeling like you are punishing yourself too badly, they're going to work. I mean, any of these diets will work. Some of them are probably nutritionally and from a health perspective better than others. And we can get into that in another episode. But I mean, as far as all of these kind of prescription diets, fad diets, any sort of structured diet, or the less structured ones like paleo and keto that, are more just kind of guidelines, they're all going to work if you're motivated. So you got to find the one that works the best for you. I mean, for me, like I said, I've tried them all. I did HMR a number of years ago. I think I lost about 150 pounds. But HMR is a diet where you're basically drinking shakes and eating this food, and you're in a bubble, or you're in a box, and it's great while you're in that box. But as far as your real life skills, you get none. I mean, they do have a maintenance phase, and shoot, my dad lost a bunch of weight and he did well and he kept it off, but you don't learn a lot of. I went the entire 150 pounds that I lost, and I gained very little, if to no, real life skills. So when I got I got a new job, and I started, traveling and doing the medical sales thing, and I had no real life skills. So over the next year, I gained it all back. But recently, I lost some weight. And I was, like I said, I was kind of doing a hybrid bastardized version of keto, paleo kind of there. I kind of picked and choose different things from both of those that I liked. And that works for me because it's simple. I know exactly what I can and can't eat. It's like, okay, I basically don't eat, I don't eat a lot of carbs except for vegetables. So I have healthy snacks. I have healthy meals, and I just kind of plan. I make sure I have food in my car and I have food in my house, and I always have the right kind of food. So it's not that I'm necessarily limiting myself. It's just that I'm only putting the right kind of food in my body. And for me, that works.
And you've been also doing the work too. You've also
I'm doing the work. And like I said, dude, the minute you start seeing results, it
helps continue it on.
Exactly.
It
exactly. It's
it helps
rewarding.
inspire you. It helps get you
And
going.
when I get on the scale every morning and, I'm down and, down, I mean, maybe not every day, but, you get on the scale and you continue to see the weight going down. It's very rewarding, and it gives you motivation. I mean, it sort of pulls you along and pushes you along as, you need that kind of, you need sort of that motivation to keep going. And, if I get up in the morning and I get on the scale and I've gained weight, then maybe I'll feel depressed and I'll go eat some ice cream or something. But if you get up and you see that you've lost weight, that kind of just changes your mindset, and it makes you want to go work out. Or it makes you, want to eat, whatever, drink a protein shake for breakfast or go eat, I don't know, if you're doing paleo or keto, maybe you need to go eat beef jerky or like a steak for breakfast. But I mean, whatever it is, I think you need to pick something that is fairly painless to you and easy. Not easy, because nothing is going to be easy, but you have to pick the thing that is the least painful for you to continue on until you can start seeing results. And then I think it just kind of starts perpetuating from there. JB, you want to take that one?
For me, it was taking the emotion out of food and using it, like we were talking about earlier, like food for fuel. I love to cook. I, was kind of a foodie. I would, make these elaborate dinners, and it was more of an entertainment thing for me. And then, once I started to lose a little weight and figure that out and feel better about myself, it wasn't an entertainment thing. It was like, okay, what's going to help me do this? And you've got to, like you were saying, you see those little successes, you start to see a little weight loss, and then you start working out, and then you realize that those two are crazy linked together. It's like, all right, well, I need to have the right things in my body to fuel me for my workout, which will then, help my mind cope with, having a cheat meal and being okay with that, and then going back to my routine. But I think the one thing really that I've struggled with is removing the emotion from food, because like Steve said earlier, it's like it's a difficult thing. Like when I was a kid, that was how people in my life showed love. Like my grandparents.
Yep.
You go and it's, oh, here, have some food. And it was like whatever it was, and that was how they showed love, which is not a bad thing, but it just didn't do anything. It didn't do anything good for me, for my habits for later on in life.
No, and then there's going to be people in your life that are going to be offended that you're not eating, or that you're not eating what they want you to eat.
Well,
but
I don't necessarily think offended. It's just
a little bit.
For me, I'm a people pleaser. So, I want to go and I don't want to take for granted the fact that there's somebody out there that's willing to give their show me love through food, but you just have to walk that line and figure out how it's going to be the best for you in that situation.
That's what it always boils down to. What's going to be the best for you?
Yeah, what's the best for you? And I mean, I know it sounds like a cop-out that we're answering this question this way, but it's the truth. Try different things and see what it is. And hey, if you're a foodie, I mean, I think JB has had some success with this, and I have. I mean, I use my love for cooking to experiment with new things and figure out ways to make things, like, just because you're dieting or because you're on paleo or something, it doesn't mean it has to be boring. I mean, there's certain ways to, to kind of enhance your cooking and just do things a little bit differently, experiment with some new spices, experiment with some new dishes. I mean, there's plenty of cool things you can do in the kitchen. And, I think at some point we'll start covering some of that, some good recipes that we have and some good recipes that, we've learned along the way, come up with, or just different things we've figured out. And I mean, you just have to kind of tweak it a little bit, but it doesn't have to make it boring, and it doesn't have to make it so that you can't cook. I mean, if you're the type of person who doesn't like to cook, and maybe something like Nutrisystem or Jenny Craig or something with the prepackaged food, maybe that's right for you, or maybe you use that partially, but you still like to cook. So, I mean,
There's a ton of options out there.
Yes.
If you guys really want to know something, and I'll tell you this, like even our last cast, we were talking about support and being around each other. And one of the things I'll tell you this is that I didn't know too much about being vegan or even vegetarian. And I still don't even know the difference completely about it to this day. But I will tell you this.
I can explain it to you, Steve.
What now?
I can explain it.
Oh, okay, cool. But I'm sure every one of our listeners is going to explain it to me. How do you not know? But I will tell you this. I had a friend, and he was like, "Oh man, I'm vegan. I'll take you out to this cool vegan restaurant." And I was like, "Cool. What is it going to be? Salad? You know what I mean? What am I going to just have a piece of broccoli? And you're just going to put some oil and oil drizzle on it and some salt and pepper? Like, you think about stuff and you're like, okay. But if you expand your horizons just a little bit, and you go, okay, I'll go hang out with the people that know a little bit about different kinds of foods, or maybe even just different types of foods. And you go out and you try it. I mean, your world could be rocked. Your palate, your tasting palate could be just so blown wide open as to what's out there that it might not only just change like the way you eat, but it might also just change the way you view food and how you go about eating and making your food selection. So just kind of be so open to the fact that go out and have dinners with people, on their own home turf restaurants. See what they're into. It'll do something for you. I promise you, it will.
Yeah, and it'll expand your flavor profile, and who knows, you may even realize that the tacos at the 2 for $1 tacos at Jack in the Box are vegan.
Or maybe you'll just realize. Maybe you'll realize that they're probably not too good for you.
That's true, by the way. Well, and that's I think that
not
illustrates
when you
a great
not
example.
when you dip them in ranch dressing.
No, then they are no longer vegan. But I think that illustrates a good example. There is a healthy vegan lifestyle, and it's not a bad thing. It's not for me, but it's not a bad thing.
Well, it gets stigmatized too.
Just because it's vegan or just because it's paleo does not make it healthy. It doesn't make it good. Now, it's not saying you can't eat tacos at Jack in the Box, but sure, the tacos at Jack in the Box, I think for cost reasons, are actually vegan. There's no meat in those tacos. They're made with soy and corn.
It's soy and corn
so
meal,
it's actually not a real ground beef that you're eating, but that doesn't mean that they're healthy for you. If you went and ate those every day, you probably wouldn't feel too good.
Well, no,
because
they're deep fried.
Exactly. But they're deep fried in vegetable oil, JB. So that way,
No. I'm not saying. Yeah, I'm not saying they're not vegan. I'm just playing to your not very healthy standpoint there.
Exactly, and I'm sure you could find foods that you could definitely do the Atkins diet in an unhealthy way. You can do paleo in a probably unhealthy way. If you're eating, if you were just eating just fatty red meat all the time, that's not. You might lose some weight, but you're going to clog your artery. Anyways, I guess what I'm saying is every diet, you still have to look at it with kind of with an analytical eye and make sure that what you're doing is still healthy. But at the end of the day, we do believe in cheat meals. I think cheat meals are cool because it really makes you think about what you want to eat. You're like, oh God, I get one meal this week. I could eat pizza, but do I really want pizza? No, I kind of want Mexican. So I don't think that you should deprive your body of things, but it's just a matter of being a little bit more analytical and looking at it more from a fuel point of view, like JB has said, as to what you put in your body, because what you put in your body is that's what you're going to get out, and not just in a physical weight loss, health kind of way, but the way your brain functions, the way that you can articulate words to your boss or to a customer or a client or a friend or whatever it may be. It affects everything, including your long-term risks of diseases like dementia and Alzheimer's and all sorts of other stuff.
Yeah. And to kind of go on your point there about cheat meals are good. Your mental health is just as important as your physical health. It's part of your physical health, but so when you have those cheat meals, it releases, the good chemicals in your brain that make you happy. And that's a good thing, you know? It's a reward. It's a reward-based system where, you've worked hard, you get a reward. So that's
exactly.
and that's a good acceptable thing,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, and there's some science that shows that it helps keep your metabolism a little higher.
Yeah, it kind of shocks your metabolism a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly, because your body kind of if you go directly into a kind of low calorie restricted diet, then your body starts to think it's in starvation mode, and maybe it'll hold on to some things, but we're no experts, we say this every episode and we're going to keep saying it, but these are just the things that we've learned.
Yeah. Things we've taken from certain situations that we've been in.
And like if you have any questions, Steve has been skinny his whole life. Steve decided to put on some muscle when he got to college and Steve's a good looking dude. So Steve's the guy who started scrawny and then, got to where he wanted to be by putting on weight. JB and I are two guys who've had, I would say, weight control problems our whole life. I mean, JB probably has had, I don't know what, 40-ish pounds you struggle with here and there.
Oh, at least. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm a guy who let it go a little too far. And, I made some changes and we'll get more into that, what exactly I've been doing if you guys are interested. But, I'm down. I got to where I was very, very heavy and heavier than I ever wanted to be. And I'm looking at old pictures of myself and it's kind of disgusting, but it is what it is. I mean, I'm still pretty young, relatively. I'm 35 years old. And in the last, I think since October, I've lost about 106, 107 pounds.
Dang.
So that's kind of the catalyst of this. And
that's huge.
And JB's lost, I think, about 15 or 20 pounds recently. And we're, we're on the journey. Here we are. And, Steve is trying to learn and be healthier, even though if you looked at Steve, you would say he's very healthy. And I think he is, but we're all just trying to be better versions of ourselves. And we're encouraging you guys to do the same thing. So that is our very sort of vague, very roundabout episode about diets. Again, we want you guys' feedback, so reach out to us. Our email is projectxreclamation@gmail.com. The website is project-reclamation.com. So go on the website, check it out. We're going to be adding some content, and hit up the email. Send us your questions. Send us your topic ideas, show topics, and whatever else you guys want to send us. I mean, we want to hear from you. We want to make this a community. So we'll probably try and put some forums or something on the website.
Or send us bourbon, or
send us bourbon.
Cigars.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly do believe in some creature comforts and some we believe that you should enjoy life. So. I mentioned earlier, I think last episode, fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to live life, but that doesn't mean you can't drink a little bourbon here and there. So guys, that is our episode. Thank you. I think we need a motivational quote. Does anybody have one?
I've got a quote here.
Oh, JB. Okay.
Yeah,
JB, you got a quote.
And this is your quote. This is one I ran across. It's kind of cheeky, but I thought it was cool.
Cheeky.
It says, "Nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible."
That is,
and that was from Audrey Hepburn.
That's awesome.
Audrey Hepburn.
Yeah.
Aww.
All right, guys. Well, that's a good one. I like it. Remember it, because I'm possible. You're possible. We're possible. It's possible.
I'm
probable.
Have a good one,
and JB's probable. we're all possible. Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
So what I believe you were trying to say is thank you.